everyone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Run It Back with Mike Matusow, and we're going to dive deep into the 2005 main event. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, open yourself a cold one. No free ads, obviously, but I'm going to have a beer while we watch this epic footage from back in the day. You guys can hear this probably. There we go. The beer has been opened. Mike, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, man. I'm so excited to do this.
Yeah. Sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, man. Before we dive into all this footage, how have you been holding up lately? Quarantine, of course, has been quite messy. You know, we're not going to talk too much about all this stuff, but first and foremost, are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. You know, it's been actually, you know, I've been playing in a couple of private online small games and been doing really good. And you know, online poker's always been my Achilles heel. So it's good to play in a private game that usually starts around 5:36 at night, and we go to about 2-3 in the morning. So this way I don't play too many hours, because that's always been my Achilles heel, is playing online for like 48 hours straight, 24 hours straight. So I've had opportunities to play other online games, but because I know I'm a sick fuck, that I'm just doing with this, and it's been profitable and it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Well, that's good to hear. And we're diving into some old footage here. For the people watching at home, don't forget to like this video, whether you're watching this through Facebook or YouTube. We really appreciate you liking this video. And of course, if you're new to this action is, of course, on PokerGo as well. So use the promo code POKER30 to get $30 off the annual subscription if you want to dive into some quarantine poker binge watching, which, of course, we all should be doing right now during this crazy time. Mike, the 05 main event, I'm just going to start rolling this footage, and, you know, jump in whenever you want. And people have questions also. Let us know those questions in the chat. There's a lot going on here.
Now to the outer tables, our chip leader, Mike Matusow, involved in a hand right now up against Michael Kessler. Action, though, is on Shawn Sheikhan, known as Shawn or Sheik. He's a very volatile player. We saw him mix it up with Tiffany Williamson in a previous session.
Matusow and the Sheik, not kindred spirits.
That was crazy, man.
You calling if I raise Mike?
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you see this?
Oh, I don't know. He's an idiot.
No, I'm just gonna
These guys are like oil and water.
Yeah, well, I had half
Sheik
my
has
chips
only
in.
about
And he was like, "You call if I raise this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fold. I got 5.5 million chips. You got 275." I'm like, "I don't even know what I got, but I'm not folding it."
Oh man, it's just incredible to just sort of see you laugh already, even though we were just getting started.
Oh, yeah, that was when the flop. He fucked me really bad in this hand.
Right.
So when he slams the hand down, I'm like, if you can see me, I'm like seething, because I knew he flopped like aces up. So now I can't sell the story. I think I had like 7 deuce off or some bullshit, you know. But I couldn't sell this. It was tough to sell the story that I had an ace after he did that.
I mean, this is the big moment where you guys both get a penalty, and you know, things get pretty heated. Let's listen.
I'm asking a question, Jack. Did you hear what he just said to me?
No, I did not.
Right or wrong?
What was just said?
He said, I'm in the middle of a hand, you need to shut the up. Quote unquote.
Okay, is that what was said?
Tournament official Jack Effel refereeing.
We're gonna play the remainder of this hand, and I'm gonna explain to you what's gonna happen here.
So we'll all have to wait for Jack Effel's decision.
I feel sorry for Michael Kessler in between these two.
Now Kessler's focused enough to throw a raise at Matusow.
I'm all in.
And Matusow comes over the top, enough to put Kessler all in.
That's a good bet. You win.
And Kessler gets out of the way. I don't want any part of this. So Matusow wins the pot.
You're an idiot.
You cannot talk about a hand in between a hand. We're playing for a lot of money. You jumped off your chair like you threw away part of the pot.
Guys, listen. Easy, buddy. We are not going to start the tournament out this way. And first of all, when the flop came, you slammed the table.
You sure
Then both of you guys got into it. So guess what? Right now, both of you guys are on a 10-minute penalty.
Yeah, I got a penalty. They like to pick on me, so I'm used to it.
So, set the stage here for us. Did this whole thing with Sheiky start in this moment, or did you guys have history in the days before this?
Me and Sheiky are good friends. People are under the assumption we're not. And so when we're in poker games, we always got at each other, kind of like me and Phil. And he decided to just like jump out of line. I mean, that was so out of line. And then afterwards, he's like saying, I folded ace-9. You know, like, that's not my fault that you folded ace-9. You know, why slam the table? Luckily, the guy folded, and I was able to sell my story. I don't think I had anything, if I remember right. I might have had like 7 deuce offsuit or something.
Right.
I didn't have much, but I knew the other guy didn't have much, and I'm just glad he didn't call.
I mean, this sort of got heated throughout this day as you guys sort of developed this rivalry, this bitter rivalry. It seemed like. Was it ever close to getting physical?
No, never.
You didn't tell everybody what.
No, like I said, me and Sheik are good friends. We've never not been good friends. He's just, Shawn. He gets a little emotional. I mean, we're playing for a lot of money, and he kind of he was out of line, and he took it out on me, and I made sure to let him know.
Yeah, this hand he has pocket kings. Were you really looking to bust him, or were you still able to play your main game?
Oh, I wanted to bust him. I'm not gonna lie. We're friends, kind of like me and Phil Hellmuth, but I wanted to bust him.
Shawn Sheikhan.
Oh my God. I mean, and this is a big moment for people watching at home. This is the penultimate day before the final table in the main event. You guys are, I believe you're down to maybe like 2 tables or maybe 3 tables?
Yeah, it's about 12 or 13 of us left, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, it's just awesome. A lot of pressure here on Sheikhan, who's all in for his tournament life. He was short for most of that day and sort of was hanging around the entire time while you were sitting on a massive stack for most of the tournament, right?
Yeah. I was a chip leader from probably day 4, day 5, day 6, going into the final table. I think I was 2nd or 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not positive. I might have even been chip leader. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were chip leader at the start of this footage, so you were basically chip leader with like 2 tables left. And Sheikhan gets one here from you. You had Phil Gordon on the rail. Was he trying to calm you down between every hand?
Yeah, because I was very, back then and even now, I've really actually calmed down a lot, so I'm not near as emotional as I used to be. But I used to be pretty emotional. Like, you watch Phil Hellmuth go crazy when he loses hands. I wore my heart on my sleeve. I took everything personal, so which is good, as a poker player. You got to play every hand like it's your last, But I was pretty emotional. So you had Phil Gordon there, just trying to keep me calm, keep me focused, and in my world, it's the most important thing is always about keeping me mentally together.
Yeah, absolutely. For the people watching on Facebook and YouTube, we are seeing all your comments. Is much appreciated. Please let us know what you want to know from Mikey. I'm trying to weave those questions into the conversation here as we're watching the 2005 World Series of Poker main event. Some shout outs. I see Tom. I see Numchucks in the chat. I see Shadow in the chat on YouTube and on Facebook. I see Danny Scott and Robin dropping in some comments. It's tremendous to see you guys engage with this. And of course, this event was also the event of Joe Hashem and Phil Ivey going deep.
Yeah, and if you notice, like the blinds 30, 60,000. Okay, this was still, I think up until 2008, where it was chip for chip. You bought in for $10,000, you got 10,000 in chips.
Right.
So, I mean, I still wish we went back to that because it basically is the same thing, and it's at the end you get to get an idea of how many people you bust and how many chips, how much is in the prize pool, and how many chips you got. So, I used to always like playing chip for chip.
Right.
Just something I liked.
And Hashem definitely had a big surge here on this day. He was never one of the big stacks, but he sort of bobbed and weaved his way through while you were in the spotlight the entire time. Did you feel the pressure?
I just knew that Joe was a great player. I knew that I really thought it was coming down to me, him, and Andy Bloch. I really didn't pay much attention to anything else. I knew how everybody else played. I knew how everybody played, but I knew that they were going to be the biggest threat to me.
Right. Kessler was having a lot of fun. This guy, not Alan Kessler. He'd be complaining on day 6 of the main event. But this guy definitely was having a good time.
He was having fun. He was good. He was pretty, probably a little bit above average player. He wasn't like, somebody I really feared. But Andy Bloch and Joe Hatcham were the two that I really had the most worry about.
Right. So this is 2 years after the Moneymaker boom and everything goes crazy. Raymer, of course, wins in 04. You and Raymer had a big falling out in 04. And then in 05, Raymer goes deep again, finishes in 25th place. But you guys seem to be more amicable in 05.
We were. Me and Raymer, we're actually pretty good acquaintances now. We get along really well. The whole thing was in the 04 thing is I told this to many people is the fact that if anybody didn't know the story, like I got set up by somebody and I was facing like 6 months in jail for something I didn't do. So I wanted to go to, I was like the only one that knew I was going to have to do this 6 months. And so I was like, my whole life was about winning the main event. And if I was going to go to jail, I was going to go to jail with a couple million in my pocket, you know? And so I took everything personal. And we had a couple of great tables that me and Raymer were at, and where we were able to really dominate the table. And he kept getting in my way. And it wasn't like I was totally taking advantage of him. I was give and take. I would open some pots. I'd let him open some pots, and just like he would come after me. So I just was just like, if you keep coming after me, I'm gonna fucking bust you. You better just, shut the fuck up, kind of thing.
Yeah, and there was this iconic moment where you were trying to shake his hand and he didn't want to shake your hand, and then there was this whole back and forth going. But then in 05, when he was going deep again, it seemed more sort of like Raymer was part of the accepted crowd of pros.
Right.
Was that part of it too?
It was. We listen, I apologized to him. He apologized to me somewhere during that year, and we were all good.
Right. The main event, I think you have a special relationship with this tournament. You've gone deep plenty of times. It feels to me as though on day 2 or day 3 of this event, you turn into a boxer. And you're like shadow boxing with yourself, but also with the players. Explain to the audience what your relationship with this tournament is like.
Well, for a while, I won a few, like I had huge chips in 2015. It was right after my surgery, and I was in a lot of pain. I get moved right to direct. I was like top 8 in chips, and I get moved to the direct left of the chip leader. And my foot hurt so bad because this was about 6 months post-surgery where I was having all kinds of side effects. And I told my girlfriend at the time, I said, we're either going to be chip leader at the end of the day or we might not even cash. I said, because I'm ready to play a big pot with this guy. He's opening every pot. And I just am. And because I'm in too much pain, and I ended up with like 5 out of the money and 8th in chips, playing 1.3, I think it was 1.2 million chip pot when average was like 240,000 for the chip lead. I flopped kings and a flush draw, top pair and flush draw. He had 3-4 offsuit, and he flopped bottom pair no draw, and I bombed it because I know this guy calls everything. And he called, he turned 2 pair with a 4, and he check raised me, and the normal right call would have been just flat and then fold on the river because I knew he turned 2 pair. But I was in so much pain, I just gambled.
Right.
And I missed. And that was my last deep run before last year. So yeah, I mean, I figured out what I was used to do right, and what I hadn't been doing right in 6 of the last 7 years. And that was, like you just said, being a boxer on day 3. Day 1, day 2 don't mean nothing.
Right.
The tournament starts day 4, usually day 3 or 4. And so it's really important to just stay patient, survive, and get yourself to where people's heads start to melt. And that's what I used to say. I said, if you get into day 4, day 5, you'll watch people just break down right in front of you, because the human brain ain't meant to play 12 hours a day of poker every day for like 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, Aaron Cantor did it only once, and he ran hotter than the sun. Lon McCarron coined the river card the Cantor after a while. It was unbelievable. He was also the one who crippled Raymer, going all in with the flush draw, hitting us hard on the river when Greg had probably like 80% equity on the turn. A few questions coming in from Facebook. I'm going to combine these 2 questions from Scott Jones and Danny Puddock. Scott wants to know, how has confidence helped you in your poker journey? And I'm going to connect that to... Danny Allison is the one who asked the second question. How would you rate your poker game then versus now? So how important is confidence, and how would you compare yourself to the player you were back then?
Well, that's a good question. So in 2005, and I tell people the story and they still don't believe it, like I was the most feared no limit player in the world. Like I was like uber aggressive. Like it didn't make a difference. They raise, I 3-bet. If they 4-bet, I 5-bet. It didn't make a difference. I was like, I played with no fear, and I sense weakness. And when the game back in 2005 was played pre-flop, and now it's played post-flop. So that's really one of the biggest difference. And lucky for me, I've been able to make that adjustment, but I wasn't able to make that adjustment probably until about maybe 3 years ago.
Wow.
So it took a lot right now to to make that adjustment and play post flop. I mean, I was always a great reader post flop, so that wasn't my problem. But staying patient and having to be able to now adjust and keep the aggression up without, but now it's more of, since it's played post flop, you have to see, you have to be a lot more patient. You can't be bombing so many hands. So I've upped the aggression a little bit more, and everybody thinks I'm super tight, which is great. So it allows me to use my image. That's why I've had a lot of good results lately in No Limit.
Wow. I've heard people in the comments, Facebook and YouTube, let us know what you want to know. We're watching the 05 main event, and Mikey just took a pot off Shawn Sheikhan, who folds his ace-king correctly, I have to say. But yeah, this back and forth just kept going and going.
I just outplay you every hand because you an idiot.
100% I have the best hand.
100% doesn't mean what it used to mean. 100% he didn't have the best hand.
If I ever get dealt anything, maybe I got a shot.
Well, considering all the bad cards he has been dealt, and he's got a great chip stack, I guess Matusow does have a good shot at the bracelet. Meanwhile, at the outer table, our last woman left in the field.
Last one was standing, Tiffany Williamson in
Yeah, she was really nice.
Yeah, and haven't really seen much from her in the years after. Same for guys like Tex Barge and Aaron Cantor. A lot of one-day flies in the main event every single year.
Tex Barge plays every year. I mean, I
does?
see him every year at the main event. He's a good guy, man.
Nice. So when you look back at this and we're getting in the mood and we're getting deeper and deeper into the event, the emotion with you right now watching this, is it still one of regret, or are you also proud of it?
It's really weird. So the entire time I was in jail for 6 months, all I thought about was getting out and winning the main event. That's all I thought about. Because back then, my whole life from 1996 when I became a pro till 2005 basically was win the main event. I mean, that's what was my goal in life. Like, that's why you see so many of these young kids that are always making the final the average age is like, what, you see 21, 22, because they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're playing, they want to prove something, so it's real hard when you get up there in age and you've had the injuries I had and stuff, putting in the hours and trying to play at that high level. But last year I was able to do it, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to do it some more. I used to believe nobody could win the main event over 40, and the guy who won last year proved me wrong. And the reason why he proved me wrong is he works out 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's the type of person that's going to take if you're going to be over the age of 40 to win the main event nowadays.
Question from Scott Jones. What was Mike doing before playing poker professionally? You were a dealer, right?
Yeah, I was a dealer from 1993 to 1996. But during the time, like after the first 6 months of dealing, which was so much fun, I started to hate it. And then what I would do is used to go play, because there was really not much no limit hold'em back in the day. It was all limit. So I used to play 10, 20, and 20, 40 limit hold'em over at the Binion's Horseshoe with like all the old timers and stuff. What's the one old guy's name that used to live at Binion's? My mind's blank right now. Anyways, we used to play with him all the time, and he got a little bit, towards the end of his life, he was kind of senile and he was kind of giving money away. So we would all play. And the funny part is all the people that played in that 20-40 limit hold'em game was like me and Ming La and Todd Brunson and Jennifer. And so it was like all the best players back then playing 20. And then we just moved up. And like, I was probably top 3 limit hold'em players in the world. I didn't become a no limit player till the first time I played a no limit tournament in 1999 that I won.
Wow.
And I spent a lot of time studying before I wanted to jump into the ring with everybody. So, and then I kind of honed my skills and I became really, really good. And, a lot of interesting things happened that kind of changed the dynamic of my game. When the UB scandal happened and they were seeing all my cards, it limited my ability to pull the trigger for years, and always thinking I was going to get called because they were seeing my cards. And I would say probably, maybe I shouldn't say this so everybody still thinks I'm a nit, but I pull the fucking trigger a lot now.
Right.
A lot.
This is a great amount of reverse psychology, because even if you are a nit, this is great advertisement and people will maybe call you off lightly. People who are watching the stream right now, let us know in the chat where you are watching from. We'd love to know where all our fans and followers are watching from. Lots of questions coming in. We'll get to most of those and we'll try to, piece it all together here while we watch the 05 main event. Mike, what was your big break in poker? Because obviously you don't just go from zero and being a dealer to playing 10K main events. So like, how did that go for you? And what was sort of the big breakout moment?
Well, I've told it in my book, and many times, and it's basically, I had somebody that when I quit dealing poker that staked me, and part of the deal was I couldn't bet sports, and so I didn't when he was staking me, and then I was just making this guy so much money that, of course, the typical people that are greedy, they're like, oh, if I could stake him, I could stake this person and make 2 or 3 times more. You know what I mean? So in 1998 or 1997, 1998, this guy that was staking me started staking Scotty Wynn. Scotty Wynn won 66,000 in tournaments during that year, but the guy didn't want to put up the 10,000 for Scotty in the main event. I had a dream he won the main event 2 days before the main event. So we couldn't find this guy anywhere. He was nowhere to be found. He wasn't answering anybody's calls. And I didn't have that much money, but I put Scotty in like 5 $1,000 satellites. He lost them all.
Wow.
Then he asked me to put him in one more. I said I could only put up 500. 2 other people put up $250 each. I ended up getting a third. They got a 16th, and Scott got a third. And when he won the main event, 1998. So that was gave me 333,000. And then I kind of never looked back. I did hate being the person that was they always like, oh, that's Mike Matusow, the guy who staked Scotty Wynn. And that really always bothered me because I knew how good a player I was. So when I won my first bracelet in 1999, and that, kind of changed everything.
Right. Well, that's an awesome story. I had heard of that story before. And your book, Check Raising the Devil, available anywhere. So if people are watching this right now and want to read all about Mike's life story, Check Raising the Devil. You were signing that book. I believe it was during the 09 World Series of Poker. I got it signed.
Yeah.
That was I was 21 years old, my first World Series of Poker, covering it as a reporter, and that was awesome. And it's a great book, and I read it back in the day when it first came out.
Thanks, man. I got a new book going to be coming out. It was going to come out by the World Series, but now I'm in no rush. Called Poker, Pain, and Politics: How All Three Made Me a Better Person.
Wow.
It's a really great book.
Well, that sounds like a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
For the people, I see people watching Illinois, Orlando, Tennessee, Ireland, Houston, Ottawa, Newfoundland, Atlanta, Fresno, Rhode Island, Buffalo. lots of Americans today. New Orleans, Philippines, Scotland, Toronto. We got people from all over the world watching today, and I love it. Action that we're watching is still hold on, I'm gonna scroll back on this one for a second. I want to hear this interaction. This is great.
You have it?
I had the other one. I had the other red one.
What was the other one?
2.
There's no point showing you that.
Chacon's bet clears the table.
I got it. Don't trip. My tournament. They can't fade me. These guys can't fade me, and these players for damn sure can't fade me. They've been trying to bar me, throw me out, penalize me.
I love Shawn.
They've done everything to me. This seems to be a defective tournament.
You seem to be a defective human.
More first-class banter.
All right, let's go out to our other.
Oh my God, I think you got a lot of fans from that 05 main event. You must.
You know what's funny is like Phil told me recently, right? He goes, Mike, you got to go back to being the old Mike. And I'm like, well, back then I was like so much better than everybody else, so I could talk all the shit and still fucking carry the torch. But now, people play so good. I got no time to talk shit. I got to focus.
Right.
And so it's real important to focus. That's the difference why I quit talking shit. And plus, I only talk shit to people. People don't realize I only talk shit to people I know, unless they come after me, which is what Raymer did in 04.
Right. But it's also kind of amazing because you probably still have to explain to this day that you and Shawn Sheikhan didn't go to the parking lot after and exchange blows.
Nah, me and Shawn are good friends. It's he gets upset a lot at me. He's like me. He's a very emotional person. especially in a poker game. So like, you know, when he takes a beat and somebody's at the table and he'll snap at me or snap at Phil. I mean, to me, I still think the greatest Shawn Sheikhan TV moment was on High Stakes Poker when Phil went into the tank and Shawn started making fun of him and he called Maury over. He's like, "Is that going to take?" Phil had like ace 10 and Andy Duke had like 2 kings, and the needling, that was just so unbelievable.
That actually is the first ever episode of Poker After Dark. That is available on PokerGo right now. So if you want to watch the Vault on Poker After Dark on PokerGo, is the first ever episode. Gus Hansen, Andy Duke, Phil Hellmuth, Shawn Sheikhan.
Just incredible.
It's an incredible lineup.
It was just the banter, but the Phil meltdown was just the great. It was probably if it's not his greatest meltdown, it's definitely in his top 3 greatest meltdowns.
It's that one, and it's the 2008 main event where he goes crazy on the kid from.
And he says, "You might think it's funny, but this is my life."
Yeah,
is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, but also where he says, "Idiot from Northern Europe."
Yeah. The idiot from Northern Europe. Yeah, I remember it.
Question from Steven in the chat. Mike, who is your favorite person to needle and pick on these days?
Oh, come on. It's not even close. It's always Phil. It's just always Phil because he fucking is. He's such an easy target. You know what I'm saying? It's like he like just, it's just what he is, man. I love him. We talk every night. He talks about himself 90% of the time. And then I get my 10% in, and that's our relationship. You know, it's all good though. I love him to death.
I did this exact show with Phil, watching the 1989 main event, which is on PokerGo. So after you people watch this show, go to PokerGo, watch that if you want to hear Hellmuth talk about himself 99% of the time.
Really, even back then in 1989, he was like that.
Incredible. It was really awesome. Incredible.
I thought he became like that after he won the main event. So he's been like that his whole life.
The funny part about that main event is there's one moment, I think they're forehanded, where he claims to have folded pocket 10s in this crazy spot where one guy ends up busting. And even though the announcers are loud and everybody at the table is being loud, you can hear Phil over everyone yelling, "I folded pocket 10s, I folded pocket 10s." Like, he's like so proud of himself. It's really funny to watch.
He's still the same way. He's like I think it's one of Phil's biggest faults, especially now that people are really good. Like Phil's still really good. Don't get me wrong. But like, back then, like, he could tell everybody how great he is with his folds or whatever. But now, when he tells everybody, "I folded this, it's like their brains are computers. So it like, when they hear that and they see how Phil reacted before he did it, they put that into their mind, and so then they'll make a move against him because they know he's going to make a fold because they saw him do. In other words, you got to be very, very, very nowadays careful what you say because there's so many people taking in information. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. You know that's totally fair. People asking in the chat, is all of the World Series of Poker available on PokerGo? We have 2011 through 2018 on the site right now. We are planning very soon to release 2003 all the way through 2010, including, of course, this footage as well. And we'll be doing lots of content surrounding those releases. So you better subscribe right now. Get in there and use the promo code POKER30 to get $30 off your annual subscription, because you're going to want to watch all that stuff. So that's definitely one of those things that I, as a poker fan, can rewatch those over and over again. And it's some of the stuff that really got me into it. This is not a great moment. I just want to have the audience hear this, because your verbal game was extremely strong on this day.
Yeah.
Who's got a fan up in here? I'll give him a couple percent.
Don't worry, you ain't gonna be here much longer.
Geez, the mouth should travel with this crowd.
Well, this personality contest here at Binion's. Matusow's winning hands down against Chacon.
Oh my God, the agony on Shawn's face is just tremendous.
It really was. I just loved it, you know. I just because he's so funny. Like a lot of things he says, it's just funny.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Queen offsuit.
Big hand here.
Come see Daddy, Mikey.
I thought he had me, but not by much.
Him. I don't know if
there was
Sheik
enough in there to call.
Like
I think I called him. I might remember. Let's see if I'm right.
The big blind, so he's already committed some chips to the pot, 80,000.
Yeah, I think
on action.
I think I call him. I don't.
Here we go.
I think I lose too.
I mean, it's a great showdown. Let's have a look.
This is our degree all-in moment.
And the mouth is disappointed when he sees what it is. He was hoping that the Sheik maybe had a pocket pair and it'd be a coin flip, but he does have 2 live cards against his rival, and he is just aching to knock him out.
Here's our flop now. 4-10, ace. Chacon grabs the lead with a pair of aces.
Chacon stands up
He
and
was
sits
so
right
happy.
back
He was
down
so
as he
happy.
takes a look and sees
Me-
that
look at me,
Matusow
I'm
has picked up a
laughing.
straight draw. A jack would make the mouth a straight.
The turn is even better.
Killing Matusow, he might double up the Sheik again.
Don't make 2 pair. That would.
You know, if these two played heads up in an alley, I think they draw a crowd.
Now the turn card. Matusow pairs his queen.
No, I don't want to make 2 pair.
Yeah, a king would make the Sheik a straight. Matusow can still get his man. The mouth with a queen or jack on the river would knock out Chacon.
And now the river card is a king. Chacon earns the degree check mark with a straight.
Look
at
I love
him.
his little fucking his little wink. I mean that's pure cheeky.
I
at
mean,
his finest.
if you were to do some kind of invitational Mike Matusow tournament, 9 players at the table, Sheik's on the list, right?
Oh, absolutely. Fucking absolutely. I mean, he's just fun to play with. He's a character. He's actually a pretty good guy, man. I mean, people have always asked me, like, we're just good friends. I mean, we were good acquaintances, you know, and we became better friends afterwards. But I mean, like we just went with, when you're playing for big money, you know, you have to separate friends from poker, and you have to know your you know, their weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of like tried to go after his weaknesses all the time, and I thought I was pretty successful.
I mean, he chirps back at you here. Let's listen. It's kind of great.
Earns the degree check mark with a straight. Doubles up again.
You got what you asked for, baby boy. What happened there? You got what you deserve, sucker.
Boy, the mouth is dry for once.
And Matusow cannot
Oh my
get
God. So at this point in time, you're obviously one of the big stacks in the event. There's a lot going on here. I mean, you're playing for millions of dollars, 7.5 up top, $1 million for the top 9. Were you thinking about that at all?
No. The one thing about the 05 main event, I always tell people that I really, really credit myself for was going into the main event. Okay, so I've said this in my book, is when I got out of jail, when I went in, I was like so scared, right? So they put me on like a mood stabilizer, like and an antidepressant. So I was on Depakote and Lexapro. So once I got out, I was really happy. And the moron that I am, I quit taking my Depakote right away, because I was like, I don't need it. I go, what do I need this for? But instead of reading and realize you have to go off of it slowly, I just kind of quit cold turkey. So like the whole month during the World Series, I barely played at all because I was in severe depression, because I was coming off these meds that you're not supposed to quit with cold turkey. So the day of the main event, I was like so depressed and I didn't want to play, and they dragged me. They're like, no, this is your dream. When you got put away, like all you cared about is this. And then my friend Matt Lefkowitz drags me out. And then all of a sudden the depression went away, like on the first day of the tournament. And the next thing you knew, I got in the zone.
Wow.
So I kept my whole motto was 1 hand at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 hand at a time, 1 day at a time. And that was kind of what I used with my motto last year. I try to go back to that, 1 hand at a time, 1 day at a time. And, you know, I had a good shot.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I feel as though it's impossible to have a linear straight line through a 25-year poker career. There's always going to be ups and downs, and we'll get into that on the show as well. For the people watching on both YouTube and Facebook, don't forget to like this video. It helps us a lot with the content. We're going to do this every single week, 4 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday. Run it back. New guests every week, new footage every week that we're going to just review, go back through, have a drink, watch party style. We're just going to have some fun with it. Lots of questions coming in as well. I'm seeing here a question on YouTube from Come Up Kid. It's about the Scott Lazar hand, aces versus kings. Trust me, Come Up Kid, stay watching. We're going to watch that hand. We're going to get Mike's take on that. Few more questions about some of your favorite players, some of your toughest players. Of course, we can go on those for a very long time. Question here, and Mike, you'll know this guy. Question from Maury Escandani. He's asking, what would Mike do differently if he could go back in time with the knowledge of the game that he has now?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I feel like I've really adjusted well to the adjustment in the game right now. But I look back and I didn't know anything really about math. I was all 100% a field player. So I didn't make decisions based on math. I made decisions at the time based on feel. So if I felt I had him, I called. Okay. If I felt he had me, I folded. I think now that math is so important. I mean, the true math of like knowing every single edge and equity of each pot. It would have maybe made me make a couple different choices back then. But I was such a feared no limit player that really math didn't matter. I mean, if you ask Phil, like he'll tell you back in the day that he feared me the most, me and Carlos. So I really want to become that feared player again. I'm really working hard at it, but I got to do it in slow increments before people notice that I make that change.
Right. So as far as the ups and downs in this event, you win $1 million. Did it? Okay. Let me ask a crazy question.
No, I was severely disappointed.
Right.
If that's what you want to know.
No. I know that. I want to ask something different. I want to know. Do you think you could have handled winning the main event back then?
Absolutely. Because of the fact that I knew the mistakes I had made. Like when I got set up and had to be do that 6 months in jail, the mistakes I made weren't what I did with the undercover cop that I got set up with. The mistakes I made was putting myself in that position for no reason to get set up. So that learning curve of that, like when I did get out of jail, was I will never ever be back in jail. I will never do anything illegal again. And like even to this day, whenever I'm on the freeway, I set my cruise control on 72 miles an hour. Like I just don't do anything illegal that could ever put me in a bad position. And your choices in life, they decide your output. So if you do the right things in life, good things are going to happen. If you do the wrong things, bad things are going to happen. So even between that and my injury, it's just like I said with my new book I'm writing called Poker, Pain, and Politics, how all three made me a better person. It's just, I've grown as a person. Could I have handled winning the main event? Absolutely. I was dead focused. I felt I was the best player in the world at the time, no limit tournament player. And I was ready. And I never believed I was going to win until the Aces Kings hand. That was the first time in my life when that king flopped that I believed I was going to win the World Series. So if that king never comes, would things have been different? I don't know, because I was really focused even after that hand. The only difference is in between hands, I kept thinking of, why did that king have to come?
Right.
Because I was ready. I had already paid out the money and was dead focused and ready to move to the next hand. So
right. Before we continue, let's watch the departure of Shawn Sheikhan. Obviously, a big moment here on this broadcast. You end up being the one getting him, which makes for even more drama. Shawn busting in 11th place. People have to realize Sheikhan went really deep in this event. Final 11. This is the hand. Sheikhan is very short, all in with ace-7. Mike has ace-queen with 2 clubs on board, so let's listen in.
As a hand, they'll just check it out as they have to give them a better chance of knocking out the all-in guy.
Lazar did check. Matusow checks. Now the turn card. The deuce of clubs. Matusow now with a nut flush.
There'll be no more checking from the mouth. He knows he has the nuts.
Lazar is drawing dead. The Sheik is too, but doesn't know it. Lazar checks. Matusow bets 400,000. Nice. Lazar folds, and Matusow has his man.
Nice. Nuts!
He has taken down the Sheik. Finally.
Well, I was a real shit talker back then.
Or you can win this way.
It's pretty funny to look at all this again.
You're cheering like you won the main event.
Yeah, well, it's just so, I just remember just every time if I beat somebody, it was always one hand at a time, one day at a time. I mean, I was excited. I had a lot of emotion. I was a very emotional. I still am. I still am one of the most emotional people on the planet.
Right.
In playing poker. The only difference now is, like I said, is so many people are so good that you can't let your emotions Get out of check. If so, and you make one tiny mistake against these killers, you're just fucked. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
just the difference.
And back then you were the killer. People have to realize that too. You know, like look at these people in this tournament. Like half of them, they barely knew the rules.
Yeah, and I was the killer, and Andy Black was great. I really wasn't worried about Cantor. I thought he was really reckless. I thought Tetch Barch was a little bit reckless. I mean, Joe Hatcham and Andy Black were the two that I really had my sights to try and stay out of their way till we got three-handed. You know, I really had a read on everybody. I had this is again before card runners, before people taught bet sizing, which I to this day tell everybody it was the worst thing that anybody was ever taught, because I made a living on knowing what people had, just the way they threw their chips in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so once they taught bet sizing, where everybody put their chips in the same way and the same sizing all the time, that took away my ability to really pick up on what people had.
Right. And we're down to the final 10 right now. You had less than $1 million in earnings, and you were on the bubble here for $1 million. Of course, 10 left. Final line would get paid $1 million. High tension moment. You are sitting on a good stack. Andy Black is someone I want to highlight. You mentioned him a few times now. He was playing aggressive and reckless, and he was doing all sorts of stuff. He was punishing Ivy earlier on the same day. Ivy busted earlier on the same day. He seemed as though destined to be one of the top pros for years to come, but it didn't seem as though it really ever, fully came to fruition for him.
Well, Andy's still a great player. The difference between Andy, he's got a lot of successful businesses, and I don't think he plays poker full time now. One of the best human beings you could ever meet. We've had a lot of sit down talks about life and about everything. You name it, I've sat down and talked with him. He's a really good guy. It takes, again, a lot of work to go from the uber aggressive maniac style to changing up to trying to getting the balance of aggression and seeing flops and outplaying people post flop. So, I always like to say what's changed from 05 to 2020, and it's like, or even like till 2016. And it's like the game used to be easy to pick up the dead money, and now all the best players have to fight for the dead money. And that's one of my favorite quotes to say, because it really is. And after being the Black Friday and so many things that happened to me and stuff, I just never put the work in No Limit to be great. I put the work in to be good. I haven't put the work in to be great. And I think with this shutdown, I've been putting a lot of work in, and I think I have a shot at being great again, even though I never thought that was in the cards.
Alan Kessler in the chat saying, Mike has made some bad choices, but he's turned it around. Mike, what do you regret the most from basically the period after this 9th place finish until today, and how do you look back on all the things you've been through?
I think without a doubt, with the biggest regret in my life is my ego and not putting away money when I had all the money in poker. In other words, people used to always say, what do you do with all the money you make playing poker? I said, I don't know. I play higher. What am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? And I did, because I was that good. But once the poker boom and post 2006 card runners and everybody started getting good, it got a lot harder to make money. And instead of me being smart and responsible with the money, I was still gambling it away on sports and just making mistakes like that. And I look back even at my injury. It's like I kept saying, what the fuck? Why can't I get a break? Why can't I get a break? How does this keep happening to me? And it was always, why me? Why me? Why me?
Right.
Okay. Once I got rid of the why me and stopped being the victim and started being the victor, that's when my life took off the last 2.5 years. So that's my best advice to say.
Right. Keith is asking in the chat, while we watch Tex Barch up to his usual stuff, Andy Black giving it away, doubling up Tex Barch here in a massive way. Keith asking, what qualifies as work to be great, as you said it? How are you working to be great again?
Well, I'm trying to use my tight image and I'm starting to exploit players where I wasn't before. In other words, I just started seeing lots and lots of flops in position, missing flops sometimes, not feeling comfortable with their bet sizing, folding. And I've gone back to a lot playing like I used to play. I'm three betting a little bit more, taking control of the pot, and then also kind of using my tight image to do that. So I always believed, even once everybody learned how to play post 2008, let's just say, that it's a lot easier to win at poker playing tight and exploiting people with your image than it is to be a loose player. And where people are yeah, when you're a loose player, well, you're going to get paid when you make hands. But what's easier, being tight and using your image to pick up pots, or being a loose player and having to make hands? You see what I'm trying to say?
Right, right.
So I elected with the tight way and exploiting my image, but I really didn't really start really exploiting my image a lot until the last 2 years. And that's why you've seen a lot of no limit hold'em results.
Mike wants to know, what limits are you playing now? And I want to attach to that, what's your goal?
Okay, that's a fair question. I play anywhere, and here's where you talk about the maturity of me from 2005. I never played less until 2000, before my injury, going into 2000 till 7 years ago. I never played less than 4-800 mix or 1500 no limit. I just never did. Okay. Now I'll play in a 5-10 no limit, a 10-20 no limit, a quarter 50 no limit, a 50-100 no limit, 100-200 no limit, even as high as 400-800 no limit. And I'll play 80-160, 40-80 mix, 2-400 mix, 4-800 mix, up until 8 and 1600 mix. Okay. In other words, is my maturity has allowed me to play in the best game that allows me to make money. Control your ego.
Right.
And poker's about playing against players that play worse than you. It's not about seeing whose dick's bigger and playing against all the best in the world, because even when you're playing all that, that's why you see the high rollers. You don't see somebody crushing the high rollers year after year. You watch one person go on a rush 1 year, another one the next, another one the next. And that's what you're just going to see, because even if you are better than the next guy, it's going to take 10 years. The difference is this much.
Right.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, even me as a really good player compared to, let's say, a Darren Elias as a great player is only this much. So it's only going to show over a 10-year period if you're playing every day like they are. If I was playing every day like they are. So,
right.
You know, that's the thing. The thing I'd say the most is put yourself in position to, if you feel like playing poker, to always be in the best game. That's what it's about. And it took me a lot of years of sucking up my ego to do that.
Right. But if you were to face yourself right now in a time machine, are you a lot better than you were back then?
No, I was better before.
Really?
Because I was more feared. When people fear you, it allows you to do so much more.
Right.
If I could get back to where people start thinking, wow, that Mike's a monster, then I could say I'm better than I used to be. I think my reading ability is just as good. I see things that nobody sees. It's something that God gave me. I don't know how to explain it. I tell people all the time, I could teach anybody GTO, and you could teach anybody how to become a winning poker player, but you can't teach people how to become a great player. You have to be born with the intuition. And God didn't give me much, but he gave me that intuition. So.
And he gave you some singing abilities.
Of our final 9 millionaires at the 2005 main event.
If anybody raises my blind, I'm going to re-raise them. So don't do it, because I'm ready to play some poker.
Paul McCartney must not be able to sleep at night.
I was a monster, man. I made the whole table feared. Everybody feared me.
You were so relaxed and so calm, yet you were so on point. Is that exactly what you were just talking about? That fear element?
Exactly. I wanted people to know that you fuck with me. I wanted to instill fear into them. If I instilled fear into them, it allowed me to rob them. And I was pretty good at doing that.
Did you find a way to benefit from your fame in the years after this, getting invited into good games, playing high stakes? Like, how did you handle that? Because obviously you became a star in 04, and then in 05 you added this to it, which also helped make your image even bigger.
I mean, I remember, like, after I won the Tournament of Champions in 05, which was 4 months after this, and, becoming kind of famous in the world was something I never thought fame was ever going to be part of my life. I do remember the one day I said, wow, this poker thing is really taking off. I said, and I'm the best in the world at it. And that was a pretty big statement that I said to myself. I'm like, wow, I never thought that I'd be involved with something so big that nobody in the whole world was better than. So yeah, you know, I had a swagger. I'm not gonna lie. I had a pretty big swagger in my life in playing poker. And when if you look at all the people even nowadays, excuse me, that have that swagger that get there all the time, man, people fear them. Think about all the top players. People fear them, right? They're like, God, he's so great. God, he's so great. That's what I was in 2005. And I never thought I would work hard enough to get back to there, but it's now something that it's on my mind because I see these people that play 100 tournaments a week and I play two a year, and I'm at the last 3 tables of everyone I play. I mean, it's not a coincidence. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's because my talent is just amazing, but I have to apply it and I have to put the work in. And I've been doing that during the shutdown.
Right. We're watching Aaron Cantor just like unstoppable. He's on a roll. Is unbelievable. Run of a lifetime there. We're getting down to the final table, the final 9. Obviously, we got a big hand coming up. Any questions for Mike, please let him know in the chat. I'm trying to get to most of them. We already handled a lot of those. And don't forget to like this video if you're watching this, depending it's YouTube or Facebook. We really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel, too. If you're new here on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We're releasing videos every single day almost. We have the Gus Hansen versus Daniel Negreanu quads versus Full House on there. We have Tom Dwan versus Barry Greenstein, $1 million pot. And right now we're watching this. There's a lot of stuff going on. You guys better not miss out on any of it because there's a ton of poker action that we're trying to put out there to keep you guys entertained during the quarantine. And that's all we're here for, to keep you guys entertained. And Mike, we still got a lot of stuff to watch, but I'm already so happy to have you on the show. It's been so much fun watching all this, and the people at home are really enjoying it as well. We're getting down to the final table now. 50K, 100K blinds. Big moment coming up.
It's so funny. It's like ninth was never in my repertoire. You know, I just kept saying one hand at a time, one day at a time. But my goal was you know, if anything less than winning, I was going to be depressed because I was the best player. You know, but it wasn't meant to be. That's all.
This is the moment.
Yeah.
Let's watch.
This is people don't understand. This is the second hand off the deck at the final table. In case anybody wanted to know.
Re-raise.
I think second or third hand.
It's $1 million
definitely
now
right
to
away.
Joseph Hashem.
That's a real raise.
That is a final table raise. Andrew Black will fold. Tex Barch, second in chip, says no thanks to Rich. Now over to Mike Matusow. Matusow with one. Oh, Matusow with pocket kings now to open up.
Oh, and his kings could hit a brutal roadblock. Lazar's pocket aces.
I'm all in.
And Matusow moves all his chips in. Aaron Cantor has him covered, so Matusow is all in.
Geez, we have just only started.
So Cantor.
I remember I had told the people on ESPN the only way I don't win is I pick up kings versus aces versus one of these monkeys. So those are my exact words in the pre-interview in the back room, and here we go. We're like 3 hands in.
And Steve Danman folds jacks, and here we go.
Lazar is right there, of course, with the call. Oh, and look at Mike Matusow, who opened up with kings.
But if you see the smile on my face, I was really ready to go to the next hand. I mean, you don't see any at this point of time. I mean, I was pretty focused, you know, but I do go into the corner. I'm ready. I have the chips cut out. I'm ready to move on to the next hand.
Jacks.
It's about normal for me, though. Cooler.
What a showdown to start this championship table. Aces versus kings.
And Matusow just feels snake bit again.
Matusow's mom and brother now with everyone else ready to watch the flop. Time! Oh, a king! Matusow gets a set! One time!
I knew that this was a tournament because I was going to have 75% of all the chips in play 8-handed.
Right.
And then it was just over. I mean, I was one of those guys that raised 80% of the hands anyways.
Right.
When the heart came on the turn, you see it. You see the look on my face. It's like, is this really going to happen again? You know?
Wow. Here we go. I get chills watching this every single time.
And if you watch, I just recently, if you put this on, hold on a second. If you put this on pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. If hold on a second, let me. My camera just fell.
Yeah.
Okay. If you put this on pause for a second, right? I told people, and my friend Matt Lefkowitz was one of my best friends at the time. I'm like, let me know if I got it, or he goes, you got it. And he swore to me, he said to me, he got it. Now, I recently listened to the tape, and he definitely said to me, you got it. So you see me jump up and down again, thinking I had won. So not only was the emotional of hitting the king, but the emotion of my best friend telling me, you got it. And I jump up and down again in the corner, only to find out that he had won the pot.
All right. I think Scott Lazar ruined some ESPN microphone equipment with what's about to happen now. So let's listen in.
Or a heart on the river, or he's the first one out of here.
Now the river, it's a heart! Lazar wins it!
Yes! 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 Told me I had it! Oh, he got it.
Gloria Matusow cannot believe it. But for Lazar's dad and best friend Bobby Brown, they are thrilled.
Wow.
You know, the worst part of this hand is like also if you watch the rest of this final table is how he gave my chips away. It was just so like tilting to watch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like people don't realize, like I tell people this all the time in poker, like one card changes the history of poker.
Right.
You go back to Chris Ferguson hitting the 9 on river against TJ Cloutier. Who knows if Chris Ferguson ever becomes a name in poker if he doesn't hit that 9?
Against
if that heart doesn't come, I'm going to win this tournament. I'm going to have 75% of the chips 8-handed. There's just no way I'm not going to win. And so, you know, and you're talking about winning $1 million to winning $5 million. I mean, that's life-changing money.
7.5 even.
Or 7.5 million, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right. Or even if you get to the final 3, okay, I was guaranteed like 4 million. 4 million would have set me for life. You see what I'm trying to say? So one card not only has changed the course of history, but it changed the course of my life.
Keep the questions coming in the chat. Mike, let's listen to the segment with you right now, and I want to hear your thoughts on what you had to say back then.
I don't remember my lifetime playing 6 better days of poker in a row. I've developed some kind of patience that I haven't had in about 5 years. I don't know, maybe the stars are lined up for me. You know, I've had a rough year. I mean, there comes a point where you just learn from your mistakes. I got to learn a lot more about life because of all the things I've gone through. I got to learn how important your freedom is in life, how important friends are in life. Things happen for a reason, and it makes me a stronger person, you know? It made me more humble.
Congratulations! The idiot made it through one day of poker.
It made me realize there's a lot more to life than just playing poker.
That's the truth.
I always came here saying, I'm gonna win. They ain't gonna beat me. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. Not this time. I hope I'll win.
I got chips. I got a shot, man.
If I was to not win this tournament, I swear to you, I'd walk away. You'll just see me smiling, saying, wow, what a great 6 days I played.
I'm a superstar!
Yeah, you know, it really was probably the best 6 days of poker I ever played. Like I said, the depression from getting off of that Depakote ended on the day 1 of the main event. And the next thing you know, I just got in the zone. It's just everybody that's out there, it's poker players that have been in that zone before can understand it. You just are seeing through shit. And I was just there. And but like I said, even with that interview, as you hear, like I was humbled. I was humbled to be free, and I was humbled to try and accomplish what I thought about every day when I was in that Clark County Detention Center for 6 months for something I didn't do.
So then, the situation you described as far as the aces versus king hand, you said that if the king never shows and you lose the hand, then you'd be totally fine moving on and playing your game. But the king giving you that hope is sort of what broke you.
It didn't really break me because I got real aggressive and I built my stack up to 5 million in chips. I made a small error against Andy Black when he made 2 pair, but I knew he was weak on the flop. So I raised him on the turn, not thinking that hit made him 2 pair. And I lost probably an extra $1.5 million in chips than I should have lost in that pot. But still, there's a hand gonna come up here against Daneman when I do go broke in this, where I looked him right in the eye and told him exactly what he had and called. So you know, I pick him off with a bluff. I mean, if you really look at the total of this final table, like one of the crazy things that had to happen to me, you know, if I don't hit the king, I'm not thinking of it every time in between hands.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though I was still focused, I thought that my focus was a good 9 out of 10, not instead of 10 out of 10, or maybe 8.5 out of 10, because the other 1.5, you know, the other times I'm thinking about what if. You understand what I'm saying? So, and again, two things had to happen emotionally to me. The king had to come. My friend in the corner had to tell me, you got it, not he got it. So then I jumped up and down in the corner, and then I had to regroup myself. And I do regroup myself really good, you know, and I get my chip stack back up there.
Yeah, no, definitely. A lot of questions coming in about full tilt. I don't think we have enough time today to dive into full tilt. That seems like a whole...
no, it's a whole other episode.
That's a 2-hour podcast that we can do. We can do a 2-hour podcast in the future and dive into some of that. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Also, where are you watching from? We'd love to know. We have a few hands left here at the 2005 main event final table. And for the people just tuning in, we're putting all this stuff on PokerGo in the near future. All the old World Series of Poker stuff is all going on there. So it's going to be incredible to have a summer full of poker, reliving some of these moments from the past that are going to be absolutely amazing to relive once again. And shout out to everyone in the chat. So many things that are coming up that are just really, really cool. Seeing people experience all of this stuff. So much money at stake here. You win $1 million. What happens right after this ends? Do you go home? Do you go to the bar? What happened?
Oh, I was pretty depressed. Not like I was in 2001 when Carlos bluffed me out of the World Series, but this was just like, really, like, how in the fuck do I get coolered, hit a king, comes out running hearts, then I pick Daneman off of a bluff. So you see, I'm all the way back up to 5.4 million. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
We're at 50 and 100,000. I'm back in the hunt.
Wow.
See what I'm saying? I have 50 big blinds. I was down to 1.8 million after the hand with the kings. So as you see, I never let up. I used my reading abilities, and I went into super aggro mode and built my stack. Now here's the 9-5. This is the hand I went where I lose, I think, about 2.2 million to Andy Black. As you see, I was fearless. I just raised with any two cards. And I mean, back then people they feared me. Nobody played back at me, you know? And the only one that was played back at me were Andy Black or Joe Hatcham, and they tried to stay out of my way as much as they could because I stayed out of their way as much as I could.
Wasn't it a mistake on your part to not stay out of their way? Weren't you too eager?
Well, I did stay out of their way. I just happened to raise his blind. I know he's going to stay out of my way. And then he called, and then when he led the flop, I just felt that he had a weak jack. I think he led the flop, if I'm not mistaken, and I raised him, right? Or he checked.
Let's see.
Oh, let's see. Did he check call lead?
Comes out with 350,000.
Yeah, he checked
Andrew
call
Black
lead.
makes the quick call.
But we're seeing Matusow not being rocky here. This is the other Mike Matusow, where he can take any two cards and be awful dangerous.
Now it's a 10, and Black has 2 pair. And makes it $1 million.
So he leads on the turn.
Yeah, I think I made it 2.5, right? And then I folded.
That's half your stack.
Yeah.
Wow, is the fuse lit? Mike's going to $2 million.
All in.
And Andrew Black trying.
That was the only mistake I really made here, and I knew and listen, I built my stack from 1.8 to, and if you see the tell. I mean, I was obvious. He had Jack 10 when he did that, you know. But it's fine. It was fine. You know, you see, it's fun where people look at play with me now and they're like, oh, Mike's such a nit. And then they see this hand, right? And they're like, man, Mike was a fucking he was crazy, you know? And I was, you know, I'm not going to lie. I had no fear. I always put people to the test, you know? And that's what No Limit Hold'em's about.
Yeah, and
I was always folding, by the way.
You were posturing.
I was never calling. He was kissing me, right? I'm laughing and laughing. Like, I was never calling.
Right.
You know?
I mean,
you see how confident, you see how quickly, and that was my misstep. That was a misstep for 2 million, you know. But I still have 3 million at this hand. It's 30 bigs. 30 bigs is plenty deep at the final table.
How long was it from the first hand until you got eliminated? Because it seemed like you guys all had a lot of big blinds.
I I would say, let's see, after the King's hand, it took me about, I don't know, maybe 21 hands to build it back to 5.1 million. And see, as you see, I was down to like 1.8 here. Here, this comes, I think this is the Danneman hand, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
Spades. He raises it up.
See, with 1.8 mil, with 18 bigs, I'm still raising with 8.5. I mean, just to give people who play with me now that think I'm such a nit, to see me how I used to play, and the people that don't are like, it's hard for them to even believe that.
But are you saying that raising 8.5 with 18 bigs in that situation at the main event final table was still profitable enough for you to attempt stuff like that?
Well, I didn't play math. I just played fucking my gut, you know? I remember, like I told you, I didn't know nothing. I didn't play math. I played instincts. Like when he calls me here, I put him on 2 8s or 2 9s. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So if it comes any ace or a king or something, I'm going to probably just move in. You know, I forgot what I actually forgot what I did this hand.
Black in the big blind.
And that won't cost him that much more to make the call.
Nah, it's just double his blind, so he figures.
I think I win this pot if I'm not mistaken.
You were min raising too, which is pretty new to poker back then.
Yeah.
In the lead, it comes out king, a 10-9 rainbow.
I think I just move all in if I'm not mistaken.
Nobody gets lucky on the flop. Black
Let's have a
did
look.
pick up a gut shot straight draw, but he checks.
Matusow checks as well, as does Danneman. Now our turn card.
Yeah,
Ace
here's
of
where I
hearts,
move in.
Danneman still good.
Look at the percentages. Matusow's hand is officially a lemon.
Is that 2 hearts there?
Yes, sir.
Check.
Matusow now does not check. 600,000, though he's drawing dead.
But why not? You know, if your opponents are acting like they're allergic to the pot, why not just try to take it?
And here, this is again
Steve
going
Danneman.
back at what I said, how they all feared me, you know? And so for me to bet like 600, you know, with only like 1.2 million behind, you see what I'm saying? It's like that was where I was again. If you go to the way the game is played today, the people who are feared are the people that are winning, you know, and I got to get myself back to that. It's something that I really am working hard on.
Does it motivate you when you see this?
It solidifies what I've been doing every day for the last 5 weeks is working. And you know, understand what I'm saying? It solidifies that my feel, and like I've been telling everybody, I'm close. I'm about 80% of where I was, you know, and you put that into the fact that now how good I play post flop. It really has allowed me to do different things, but I've definitely, instead of flatting, which is what most people do with big hands and they play post flop, I am getting it to head up, and I've been 3-betting a lot, and then I'm using board texture and you know, whether I want to check back and control pots. So everything all the GTO and great players do with board texture and controlling pots, I do. The only thing I do now, I put in more into my game now, is more 3-betting, more floating, and using that as much to my advantage.
Put a percentage on it for me. What's the percentage chance you'll make the main event final table in your lifetime again?
Wow. 1%. I mean, I'm a realist, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think anybody that says higher than that are just egotistical. You know what I'm saying? It's too big. I mean, last year I finished 200th and 199th, and I had chips. I had a shot, you know, and unfortunately, a certain situation came down that worked against me, and I still can't believe the guy called the raise on the turn, you know, especially as tight as I was playing at the time. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna, you know, I've had 4 shots to win this tournament: 2001, 2004, 2005, and 2008. I always consider, to have a shot to win, you got to have 50 big blinds with 100 people left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to 199th last year. I didn't consider that a chance to win the tournament. If I had gotten into the final 100 with that chip count, I would have put that as I had another shot to win. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And I hated the way I went broke. You know, I even talked with Dario, you know, who nursed between a 6 and 12 big blind stack for, like, it seemed like forever last year. you know, I told them how I went broke and I hated it. And all the GTO players were like, oh, it's perfectly fine. Oh, it's standard. Oh, it's standard. But it's not standard in the main event. 15 big blinds in the main event is not 15 big blinds in a regular hour-long regular tournament. It's just not, you know, hour levels.
Right. All right. Let's hear some Go Mike Go in the chat from everyone on Facebook and YouTube, because that comeback, I feel like it's coming. The quarantine is getting Mike hyped up to play big stakes again and to make a deep run in the main event. We're watching the final hand here of Mike's run in the main event. Let's listen and watch and you know, see what happens.
Now,
So Danneman with a risky move.
Go ahead, Mike.
if you look at this hand, right, again, people need to understand. I never played math. I didn't know what percentage of what hands beat what. I just knew when I had people beat. I led. I watched him move in. I studied him for 3 minutes. He had a big. Danneman had a really big tell, and I looked at him and I said, "You got ace jack. I know it." And I called, and he had ace jack. And you see how pumped I am, because I'm like, I'm not even thinking about the gutter ball. I'm just like, no ace, no jack. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just, you know, my thought process.
Makes a great read.
Yeah, great spot to double up and get some chips.
Danneman can hit an ace or a jack. He's got a backdoor flush draw and a gut shot straight draw.
Good luck.
What a contrast and attitude
And what a
between
great
the
guy,
happy-go-lucky
Steve Danneman.
Danneman and the brooding Mike Matusow.
Well, the brooding one on the verge of a big double up as we go to the turn.
Now the turn card. Turn is a 4. Danneman got the straight, and suddenly Matusow on the brink of elimination.
What a read, dude. I knew he didn't have anything.
And you see, I'm like, what a read. I mean, for you to, you know, when he was the original pre-flop raiser and you lead and he moves in on you, you know, normally back then people don't realize, like, they don't move in light. Like, they have, when they're pre-flop raisers, they have aces, kings, queens, you know, and I just studied it and I said, he doesn't have it. He's got ace jack. And you'll hear me say out loud, I mean, I know you got ace jack. I just know it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And this hand shapes the tournament, because Danneman was short for a long time as well. He picks up chips now, ends up going into finishing in second place. But yeah, this seemed like your moment. It seemed like your event to lose, and all of a sudden it falls apart. I mean, you can see the emotions right there.
Yeah.
I mean, cannot even imagine what that must have been like.
It was brutal. 2004 was way worse because I told you, I was only one of like 2 people that knew I was going to have to do 6 months in jail for something I didn't do. So it was way more emotional. This was more, I put a lot, I played so great that I mean, I don't want to say because I'm sick of saying I and being the victim, you know, but yeah, I deserve better, but you know what? It wasn't meant to be. You know, if I would have won that tournament, who knows what could have been different in my life. You know what I'm saying? Everything happens for a reason. You take that, my injury, Black Friday, you know, so many obstacles that have happened in my life, you know, and you just have to turn them around and make the best of it. And, you know, after this, I ended up winning 2 more bracelets. I won NBC Head Up. I went to 4 more WPT final tables. So, you know, I've had plenty of success with very, very limited tournament play.
For the people watching this video, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel. Mike, I want to know, let's not get into when this quarantine will be over, because we really don't know, but when poker returns, what do you think your schedule will be like? What are you aiming for? Are you mostly focused on World Series of Poker? Like, how do you feel about like what poker will be like for you?
Well, I mean, most people close to me know that because of my injury, and I have a permanent spinal cord injury, I cannot walk longer than 50 yards. I walk through the house fine. I won't go to dinners. I'm fine. But even when I walk into poker rooms, it inflames my spinal cord. And so it's very hard for me to go on tour or fly. Okay. So my pain doctor tells me, like, when I fly, the compression and the decompression from the airplane, it expands on the spinal cord injury and then goes down. And that's why I'm in so much pain whenever I fly somewhere. So the chances of me flying, I mean, the only place I fly to now is the Shooting Stars Bay 101. And then I play LAPC. I didn't play LAPC this year because of the coronavirus. And I had just gotten back it's so crazy. It's like, I was in Washington, DC. I know some really good political people I've become pretty good friends with. They got me a West Wing tour of the White House, and everything was calm. This was like, I was supposed to meet the president on a Friday, but he ended up doing a rally in Vegas. And then he was back in Washington, and I was going to possibly meet him on Sunday, but that's when he had to go to India. So I ended up not meeting him. But I did get a tour of the White House, and it was fun. But when I got back, I was in so much pain I couldn't move. I had to take a steroid pack. So I skipped the LAPC because when you take prednisone, it lowers your immune system, and that would have gave me even a 10 times more chance of catching the virus. So I took that week off, not knowing the virus was what it was going to end up being. Nobody really knew,
Right.
you know. And then I after like 10 days, I went to Bay 101, and I finished 15th out of 406, whatever, how many 290 players, and I gave it away. I mean, literally, I gave it away. And they ended up chopping it 10 ways. If I don't make this ridiculous play, I'm going to end up chopping it in the 10 ways and probably got 4th place money or something. But because once we realized everything was shutting down, there was no reason for any of us to play anymore.
Right. Well, we're excited to have you back playing at the highest level whenever poker does return. Everybody at home, thanks so much for watching. This was Run It Back. We'll be back next week, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, with a new guest, a new broadcast. And if you have suggestions for both the guest or the broadcast that we're going to watch, let us know in the comments down below who you want to see on this show. Might be Jamie Gold with the 06 main event. Maybe I'll get Jerry Yang on the phone. Maybe we'll get Phil Galfond to watch some high stakes poker with us. Every week, Run It Back. Crack open a beer. Enjoy, laid back, very easy going. Mike, thanks so much once again for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed it, even though, of course, you much
fun times, man. By the way, that's only now the 2nd time I've seen a video of this whole thing.
Well, I mean, at
the
least,
first was only a year and a half ago, by the way.
Oh wow! At least you got to give your thoughts and emotions to the people watching. So
yeah, and I believe it or not, like watching it and on like talking with you, it's like there's emotions going through me right now. I don't know if you could tell. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like my thought process right now is like thinking about, wow, like what if, you know what I'm saying? What if this didn't happen? What if this didn't happen? But instead of saying I, and what if, you know, I'm thinking, you know, no more victim, no more what ifs, you know, like you're strong now, you've built yourself a bankroll from nothing with nobody's help. And I'm back. I mean, everybody knows I'm back. I've made last 3 years of World Series of Poker. I've played 52 events, 23 cashes, and 6 final tables. Let me know anybody else can top that record. I might not have got a bracelet, but I've had a shot in many of them, and everybody knows that when you're at that final table, you got to get lucky. I mean, and it just hasn't been in the cards yet.
Let's end on that note. Mike, thanks so much. You guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with much more.
Yeah.